How do governments rethink migration when work detaches from physical location? The Diplomat, published just this week, observes a subtle but profound shift in global labor markets. For generations, migration governance assumed work and workers moved in tandem. Yet, with remote work and digital platforms, economic activity increasingly detaches from physical location. The piece explores how countries like Nepal are navigating this new reality, where work can move without people, prompting a reevaluation of national strategies for talent attraction and economic competitiveness across Asia. It raises timely questions about how states should govern mobility when geography no longer dictates labor flows. Written by Hari K.C. in The Diplomat, narrated for Arva.
For decades, migration governance in Asia rested on the simple assumption that work and workers move together. Countries such as Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and the Philippines supplied labor to wealthier economies in the Gulf and East Asia, while destination countries competed to attract workers through immigration and labor market policies. Migration governance was largely organized around regulating the movement of people across borders. That assumption is now beginning to break down. Advances in digital technologies, remote work platforms, artificial intelligence, and cloud-based collaboration tools increasingly allow people to participate in labor markets across borders without physically relocating. As a result, governments around the world are confronting the new reality that economic activity can shift even when workers do not. This shift is becoming increasingly visible across Asia. Governments are experimenting with remote work visas, talent attraction programs, and digital economy strategies designed to capture the benefits of a more geographically flexible workforce. While these initiatives are often framed as efforts to attract digital nomads, they point to a broader transformation in how states think about migration, work, and economic competitiveness. Nepal's recent decision to create a legal framework for international remote work offers a revealing example. In the policy proposals accompanying its recently announced fiscal year 2026-27 budget, Nepal signaled plans to facilitate remote work for people employed by foreign companies, while also attracting international remote workers. Beyond the number of workers it manages to attract, the significance of Nepal's initiative lies in what it reveals about the changing relationship between labor, territory, and state power. For generations, labor migration has been one of Nepal's principal development strategies. Millions of Nepalis have sought employment in the Gulf states, Malaysia, India, and elsewhere. According to the World Bank, the value of remittances is equivalent to a quarter of Nepal's GDP, making the country one of the world's most remittance-dependent economies. Yet this model has also generated long-standing concerns. Policymakers have grappled with labor exploitation abroad, dependence on external labor markets, demographic pressures, and the continued emigration of skilled workers. Remote work introduces a different possibility.
The growth of remote work creates the possibility of earning income from international labor markets without requiring workers to emigrate. Rather than exporting labor, governments may increasingly seek to attract economic activity itself. This shift is not unique to Nepal. Across Asia, governments are experimenting with policies designed to capitalize on the rapid expansion of remote work. Thailand's long-term resident visa targets highly skilled professionals and remote workers. Malaysia launched the Rantau Nomad Pass to attract international remote workers. Japan recently introduced a digital nomad visa, while South Korea has launched its own remote work visa scheme. The United Arab Emirates continues to position itself as a hub for globally mobile professionals through initiatives such as its virtual working program. These policies are unfolding alongside broader structural changes across the region. East Asian economies face aging populations and labor shortages. Southeast Asian governments are seeking to establish themselves as digital economy hubs. Gulf states are pursuing ambitious economic diversification strategies that rely heavily on attracting global talent. At the same time, traditional labor-sending countries continue to search for ways to reduce dependence on large-scale emigration while creating new economic opportunities at home. Remote work sits at the intersection of all these dynamics. The line between labor-sending and labor-receiving countries is becoming increasingly blurred. Countries that once focused primarily on exporting workers now seek to attract highly skilled professionals, entrepreneurs, and remote workers. Traditional destination countries continue competing aggressively for talent. Meanwhile, millions of workers are beginning to participate in global labor markets without moving abroad at all. One way to understand this transformation is through three futures that are unfolding simultaneously across Asia. The first is the continuation of the labor export model. Despite technological change, physical migration will remain essential for many sectors. Construction workers, domestic workers, caregivers, agricultural laborers, and hospitality workers will continue crossing borders because their jobs require a physical presence. Labor migration will remain an important source of foreign exchange and household income for many countries across South Asia. The second future is the rise of the talent attraction state.
Countries facing demographic decline or seeking to become innovation hubs increasingly compete for highly skilled migrants. In this sense, immigration policy has become an instrument of economic competition. The third and perhaps least understood future is the emergence of what might be called the work from anywhere state. These governments seek not simply to attract people, but to attract economic activity itself. Their goal is to enable income generated elsewhere to be earned and spent locally. The focus shifts from importing labor to importing work. Nepal's recent policy announcements suggest it may be cautiously moving toward this third model, yet doing so successfully will require much more than creating a new visa category. Remote work challenges many of the assumptions that underpin existing migration governance systems. Tax regimes, labor laws, social protection systems, and immigration regulations remain largely organized around the territorial presence of workers. Yet remote workers may reside in one country, earn income in another, and provide services to clients located across multiple jurisdictions simultaneously. As cross-border remote work expands, governments will increasingly confront difficult questions about taxation, labor protections, social security contributions, data governance, cybersecurity, and regulatory oversight. The enthusiasm surrounding remote work often rests on highly optimistic assumptions. Policymakers frequently imagine internationally mobile professionals arriving with foreign incomes, spending money locally, and contributing to economic growth without competing directly for domestic jobs. There is some truth to this narrative, but experiences elsewhere suggest a more complicated reality. Cities such as Lisbon, Barcelona, and Mexico City, and the Indonesian island of Bali have become testing grounds for understanding the unintended consequences of attracting globally mobile professionals. Rising rents, housing pressures, and growing tensions between local residents and foreign remote workers have generated political backlash. In many places, debates about digital nomadism have become debates about affordability, inequality, and who benefits from globalization. Asian cities are unlikely to be immune to these challenges. Many destinations actively courting remote workers already struggle with housing affordability, infrastructure deficits, environmental pressures, and uneven urban development.
Kathmandu already faces chronic congestion and pollution, while Pokhara is grappling with the environmental consequences of rapid tourism growth. If remote work policies are designed solely around attracting foreign spending, they risk reinforcing existing inequalities. This is particularly important because access to remote work remains deeply unequal. The ability to work from anywhere is shaped by education, digital skills, internet infrastructure, citizenship status, language proficiency, access to international payment systems, and professional networks. A software engineer from Berlin, Toronto, or Singapore who can choose between working from Bali, Bangkok, or Kathmandu occupies a very different position from a Nepali construction worker navigating recruitment agencies and temporary labor contracts in the Gulf. Rather than replacing existing inequalities, remote work may create a dual-track mobility system in which highly skilled workers enjoy unprecedented flexibility while others remain dependent on traditional migration pathways. For Nepal, therefore, the most important goal is to enable Nepalis themselves to participate more effectively in global labor markets while remaining in Nepal. For decades, economic mobility and geographic mobility were assumed to go hand in hand. Digital technologies create the possibility, though not the guarantee, that some forms of economic mobility can occur without physical migration. Realizing that potential, however, requires a far more ambitious agenda than visa reform. A meaningful remote work strategy must involve investments in digital infrastructure, education, skills development, international certification, financial inclusion, cybersecurity, labor protections, and access to global markets. It must also ensure that the benefits of remote work are not concentrated exclusively among already privileged urban populations. Most importantly, policymakers must think beyond tourism. Beyond the goal of attracting foreign workers, the central question for Nepal is how the country can position itself within an emerging global economy in which labor, services, and economic value increasingly move through digital rather than physical channels. All of this raises an important question for governments across Asia. How should states govern mobility when work is becoming increasingly detached from geography?
The countries that succeed may be those that build the institutions, infrastructure, and regulatory frameworks capable of connecting globally mobile economic activity to inclusive local development, while managing the inequalities that new forms of mobility can create.